Hello, good morning everybody. It's great to be here today. I'm trying to think about how many years ago it was since we had the last in-person. Yeah, 4 years ago since I first stood up and talked to this audience. I think quite a lot has changed with our research communications since that time. I think one of the things that's been really exciting for me since I joined Manchester just over 4 years ago now really is the emphasis we place on our research communications. We are a research powerhouse, and communicating our research prowess is a huge priority for our directorate. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we put that into context for the rest of the day in terms of our planning, but also the rather catchy title I've been given by the team today, which is talking about our reputation, the good, the brand, and the ugly. Thank you, colleagues. So first of all, for those of you who might not know, it's a slightly different slide, that's fine, who might not know what our directorate does, we cover the following areas, so student communications, staff communications, media and social media, policy at Manchester, design, campaigns, web and content, and UK student recruitment. You're going to hear from many of the people today who cover these different aspects of our work. And then in addition to people that are based in the directorate that I'm the head of, there are also a number of colleagues based around the organisation as well who played a huge part in really communicating our research. And if there's one thing that I'd like you to take away from today, please, it's that we operate as a team, a joined-up team, a single team across the university. And there are people from all those different areas who are in the room today, so please make the most of the networking opportunities and reach out to us not only today, but in the future as well. So let me just think a little bit about our context and the way that we've been working and what's really led us to have a rethink about how much more joined up we can be as a university in communicating our research. And I think it's fair to say that we had the opportunity to have a real rethink about our approach during COVID. And our team really came together during this time. As I'm sure you'll all remember, we faced an ever-changing context on campus and in the wider world. Who can forget that a man who was recently on I'm a Celebrity let us know via Twitter on a Thursday evening that Manchester was going to be moving into lockdown. And because of things like this, because of the pandemic and the need to just leave the organisation and our working practices overnight, we became much better organised through daily meetings across communications, representing all areas of the university, thinking about our communications critically to our staff and our students, but to our wider network of stakeholders as well, planning and becoming more adaptable than ever to meet the constant demands of a changing landscape. But this new approach, this crisis situation that we started working through, also gave us an opportunity. And that's the first of the good things I want to talk about in the trio of topics today. So in thinking about our response to COVID, one of the first things that we sought to do was to make a positive out of a very difficult situation. And that's when we really came together to help support our researchers in communicating their response to COVID. And you can see some of the examples here. This was across all faculties and many disciplines. And our lockdown lectures brought together well-known academics to talk about their passions, and they were a huge success, not only actually with our usual stakeholders, but in particular families and our local audience as well in terms of our local public. We provided activities and inspiration for these families, and our experts appeared in the media, giving comment and describing their research. Everything was moving very quickly, but crucially, we brought together all the areas of our community to work together. And on reflection, we realised that was the way forwards. So, what happened next? Let me talk now a little bit about the brand and how we run our communications now. So, just before COVID hit, we were literally about to do a very significant launch internally of our future and the onion that Colette has already alluded to this morning, which described our 7 priorities in our strategy. And actually, we were able to use this as a guide as to what we needed to communicate to our audiences. It provided a fantastic platform for us to think about how we were shaping our communication strategy. And we knew that we needed to be flexible because things could change in a heartbeat. What might be the biggest issue today might be something completely different tomorrow. But we also knew, as we were gathering momentum and working throughout this very difficult pandemic period, that working across teams together, we could deliver really powerful results. And most importantly, as I said at the start today, we're a research powerhouse. We had great stories to tell. And it was more important than ever that we set all this work within the context of our EDI commitments too. So in terms of our strategic approach, this was explicitly linked to our future, and our objectives support the delivery of our strategy, in particular the theme of global influence. And we place great emphasis on listening and engaging with key audiences, and our communications being informed by our values. And all of this, pulled together, appeared in our new corporate communications and reputation strategy. And this is quite a simple document, these 2 pages here that you can see, which have guided us ever since. In terms of how we oversee the implementation of our corporate communications and reputation strategy, which is now at the heart of what we do, we have regular planning meetings with a huge range of colleagues from across the organisation, really picking up from those lessons learned of how we worked through a crisis during the pandemic. And you're going to hear some great examples of these campaigns today, but I want to mention just a couple in passing. And it would be remiss of me to not, of course, focus on REF from the outset, because I think this was a really stellar example of how we work together across our research communications to tell the best possible stories about REF. And key to the success of this communications campaign was planning, internal stakeholder engagement, centralised messaging and regular action-driven meetings. Building on the lessons learned from REF 2014, a cross-directorate team was pulled together, and we called this, and we developed the REF 2021 communications schedule with core REF communications text and a REF comms briefing pack. There was a huge amount of work behind the scenes in terms of all the planning that went into executing the communications around our REF results. And this schedule captured key milestones into one document that was ultimately signed off by Colette and the senior leadership team and shared with the research strategy group, heads of schools and the communications and marketing leadership team. A REF communications working group met from January 2022 until the final debrief session in May. The initial activity had some fantastic results in communicating, both in terms of communicating internally and being amongst the first to share our results externally. That was a major coup for the university. It was really terrific. Our campaigns team are going to talk to you more about what we did with our REF content later today, but this really demonstrates for me the power of working across teams and across disciplines. And another great example that I'd like to highlight today is our work for the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. In April 2021, we came top in the world for our progress against the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And for me, I have to say, after a very difficult period, this marked a significant turning point. Of course, COVID wasn't over, but it felt like as an institution, we'd really turned a corner. We had the most fantastic news to celebrate, and it really was a gift of a media story to work with. It was, however, a corner that we had to turn around very quickly. We didn't get much notice of this, just a few days, and so my colleagues and I worked incredibly hard to make the most of this in the media and on social media, and I think it's fair to say we made a huge splash. And I like this example because it shows how we need to be flexible and adaptable. We never know when the next big topic is going to appear, and that's not always dealing with difficult stuff, but also, as I said, some fantastic news as well. And talking about difficult things, I think it's fair to say we have to reflect on some of the difficult media relations activity that we deal with in the centre. And Jamie and colleagues have been really terrific to work with over all the years that I've been at Manchester. It's inevitable that when you're such a large organisation, we will have and continue to have blows to our reputation. We are under constant scrutiny with the media, and our proximity to the BBC is both a gift but also a challenge sometimes in terms of being approached for comment. Many of you will not realise the number of these issues that we deal with, or the variety of topics that we manage to keep out of the media. We are high profile, the size of a small town, and any or all of the UK or geopolitical issues come back to us in some way or another. And that can be across the sector, but other topics as well. And you can see this, as I say, from the scale of inquiries that we receive on social media and from journalists. But we've significantly changed how we manage some of these difficult issues over the years now. Rather than relying on a few people, we now have a dedicated communications, media and social media rota, which means there are always 3 people on the rota on call, and that is staffed 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. We've been drawing straws, haven't we, recently for the Christmas rota, but we make sure that we've got cover, and we're not relying on just a few people to be covering that, because, as I say, we never know when the next crisis is going to hit. We also continually work hard to train and support our staff working at the front line of these issues, because some of them can be very difficult to deal with. And that's also a key consideration for us as well. It's not just the scale and the pace, but it's also the topics. And I'm sure that many of you will be aware of some of the recent difficult issues we've had to deal with as well. But we've made significant progress in the way that we communicate, manage these difficult issues with our staff and our students, although we know there will always be more to come. And speaking of what's around the corner, it's my great pleasure to just touch on briefly today celebrations and communications that are planned for our bicentenary year in 2024. At the moment, I'm the sort of key person leading on bicentenary and thinking about how, as a university, we can all come together and share the celebration that will be 200 years of this fantastic institution. So plans are in place for us to be thinking through delivering some very significant once-in-our-working-lifetime events, rebranding a whole raft of things that we already do. If you think about, say, graduation, the Making a Difference Awards, Foundation Day, so they all have a bicentennial feel, and then also you may all want to deliver in individual areas local celebrations that reflect your memories over the past 200 years of our fantastic university. But also, critically, what will underpin the bicentenary will be a communications campaign. And here we'll be really looking to work with all of our colleagues in the room today to unpack these excellent research stories that will form the foundations of what we talk about throughout our bicentenary. So thinking about our past, but also looking to our future. And I very much look forward to working with you all to bring that content to life. And then finally, it's a bit of a dry topic, but it's really important that we think about how we're spending our money in the university, particularly as a not-for-profit organisation when resources are scarce. And so measuring our reputation is really, really important. And if we take the good, the brand and the ugly together, you get our reputation. And it's hard to measure this, as it will mean different things to different people. But we survey a huge amount of stakeholders all around the world, and we use these findings to tweak what we do and to make sure that we are delivering value for money. This can all seem nebulous, perhaps even a little frivolous at times, but I hope that you'll all see throughout the course of today that there are huge benefits for us as an organisation of having a strong and powerful reputation for both individuals and for our organisation. So please do make the most of today. There are some fantastic experts in the rooms, so ask questions, swap contact details, follow up, most importantly of all, enjoy. Thank you for your time today.